coral is so very important. When we look at the seabed of the ocean, having healthy coral means that these big swells that come into shore get dispersed when instead they bump along the coral, so that when they reach our sands, they don't become typhoons.
Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited to be able to chat with you today. I know you have some awesome things going on. Also, super enjoyed you in Mean Girls. I know we didn't come here to talk about Mean Girls today, but I just wanted to shout that out because I was like, yes, okay.
You're the sweetest.
So, you have a partnership that you're working on with Sheba,
Mm-hmm.
and will your cat be making appearances today?
You know what? He's over there, just off camera. He's been glaring at me all morning. He's like, "Oh, you want me over there? You do the camera work, not me." Yeah, I love him. I'm a proud cat parent. So, as we were saying, I am really proud to be partnering with the Sheba brand again. I really love it when a brand has that sustainability core like I do. I grew up in Hawaii. I love going home, and the ocean gives so much to us that it only feels right to give back. So, with this Growing Hope in Hawaii video series, it's a three-part series. The first meeting me, meeting Kuleana Coral, which is a beautiful 501c3 nonprofit organization based off of Oahu, and they do great in situ coral restoration work. So meeting us, meeting the team. The second is joining us on a dive. I have to say, I initially, like when I was younger, thought that scuba diving and snorkeling was for the tourists, and I have completely changed my tune. It was just something that I like I only saw other people do, and I never got into it myself. And now I think of it, one is a real privilege to see everything going on underwater and getting to see up close this foundational species. But also I think it's a great learning technique to even bring to our own like native population of like, this is what you've grown up with. How lucky are we? And then that third video is you get to then come home, you get to meet Rocco, and I get to do a little bit of a download of what I got to see and how I am inspired and I feel hope for scalable efforts in restoration work. And then I get to share a few techniques, both big and small, of how you can also join in on the sustainability.
I love it. Joining me today is Auliʻi Cravalho. I want help me say it right. I don't want to. I hate that.
Okay, you nailed.
Cravalho.
Yes, yes.
Ah,
Listen, you got the first one. Like, that's the real kicker. Like most people, I kid you not, I was called aioli once. You passed on all fronts.
I used to be a K through 12 educator, and I hated getting people's names wrong because I feel like it's actually a point of like connection, right?
Yeah.
To get people's names correct. So I am not shy or afraid of being like, wait a minute, let the world know how we should do this correctly. Like I practiced it multiple times before we got on. And then sometimes personalities get on, they still get it wrong. And it's like, it's like
Happened.
happening in your brain. So, Ali, I'm so glad for you to join us today. Let's take us back a step. Where did your passion for coral reefs come from? What was your experience when you were younger? Because I heard you talk about how, with diving, you were kind of like, you know, it, but
Yeah,
but I get it because in like being in DC, there's people who grew up here who couldn't care less about going to a monument or a museum where people travel for miles to come
exactly.
to the museum. So tell us a little bit about where your passion started.
Yeah, sometimes what's in our own backyard sometimes gets overlooked. I born and raised on the Big Island of Hawaii. I then attended boarding school at Kamehameha Schools, which is a school that gives preference to those of Hawaiian ancestry. So to speak on culture a little bit, in our kumulipo, which is like kind of a genealogy chant, we know that hanau kauku ko'ako'a, which is born is the coral polyp. That is something that ties indigenous knowledge to science, which I love, is that science understands that coral is a foundational species. And in our genealogy, we also say, yeah, coral was one of the first living beings on this earth, which I think is a beautiful tie-in. I love indigenous knowledge. And also to speak on the kind of cyclical relationship that I believe Native Hawaiians have is in our initial stories, you know, in Christianity, you have Adam and Eve, the world was created for man in 7 days. And for us, the first child born of Earth Mother and Sky Father was stillborn and was buried into the ground. And from that sprouted Kalo or Tero. And the next child was man. So if we take care of our older brother will take care of us. So it's that stewardship that naturally comes. And I didn't read like very many American based like books when I was in school. We only read really Olelo Hawaii and Hawaiiana books. So I didn't fully understand how that would shape me. But now looking back, I realize, oh, my core is so strong.
Mm. Yeah, no, I love that. And I think something that people don't often, so people, if you're in complete ignorance about it, and the thought is like, oh, there are these plants under the water. And it's like these are living, breathing like animals that live and really affect our ability to combat storms,
Yes.
and employ lots of people. And
Yeah.
so could you talk to us a little bit about like some of the environmental impact that's happening and sort of like how that works ecosystem wise, like their the environment and from human pollution as well, negatively impacting the corals, but then there's a whole ripple effect that
Yes.
happens.
I
Yeah.
will happily talk about this. So, um, yes, coral is so very important. When we look at the seabed of the ocean, having healthy coral means that these big swells that come into shore get dispersed when instead they bump along the coral so that when they reach our sands, they don't become typhoons. We see now, especially with global emissions at an all-time high, that communities, especially those like small island developing states, I do some wonderful work with those communities, and they are on the front lines of the climate crisis. They
Mhm.
are experiencing once in a lifetime typhoons and king tides now every 5 years. And so we have a responsibility, and I'm really grateful that the Sheba brand also feels like they have a responsibility to change that. I am a part of Gen Z. I know that I am not the only one who feels like I am inheriting a world that is on fire. But I also really appreciate having steps that we can take to right this imbalance. It is not inevitable that we all end up underwater. And I think that's something that we all need to hear.
Yeah,
Uh,
I love that.
and between coral bleaching and and rising emissions and the world truly turning that dial up and the heat getting even higher, it is important that we all take the personal responsibility and then hold brands to a higher standard as well of giving back.
That's right. Now, Sheba, so the series is Growing Hope in Hawaii, and your cat is going to have a feature in it as well, as you mentioned.
Yes.
And Sheba is a cat food brand. So why is a cat food brand talking about coral restoration? Like, help us tie the two together.
That is a great question. I have the box right here. So there are food choices of salmon, trout, sustainable tuna, and all of that ties into fish. So Shiba brand has a wonderful moral sentiment in that if we grow more coral today, that means we'll have more fish tomorrow. And I think that is really important that a brand knows their impact and then tries to offset as often as they can. And so they do wonderful work off of Hawaii, but also around the world. They have this wonderful Shiba Hope Grows program, and that is and that like we get to see the impact all around the world, including off of Indonesia as well. They have this beautiful reef that spells out the word hope, and they use these wonderful reef stars, which is their own technology, to scale up these operations as well. And I love the science behind it. I could talk about it forever, but I also love how it makes me feel because it gives me more hope.
I have one last question. First, I just want to acknowledge you for the intentionality you're putting behind this partnership, right? You know, we see a lot of stars making a lot of moves, but this is well thought out. This is so akin to your culture. And so, you know, you really have an affinity for what you're doing. And I'm excited for the impact and change that you'll be able to create in the world. So last question, what can we do? How can people listening support? Of course, they should absolutely watch the series. And where will the series air? Which date, what date will it drop on?
That's going to drop on Monday, and you can check it out at sheba.com/sustainability. And there are things, there are efforts that you can make. Something small, using reef safe sunscreen. What is that, you ask? I'm so glad. So in Hawaii, we have banned oxybenzone and octinoctate, which are chemicals that actually harm our coral reefs. If you didn't know, now you know. There's also recycling. There's also the simple act of cleaning up after yourself and others. And others. That is part of, I think, what makes Hawaii so special. People are like, oh my gosh, like you're so nice. That's the aloha spirit. That's taking care of yourself and your neighbor. Another thing, use a reusable water bottle. You know, these are small things. And then for the larger things, hold people accountable. Vote. You know, like
Okay, okay, throw it out there.
a little
Let
vote,
the people know. Listen.
there's small
Okay.
things and big things, but all in all, we are living on this earth together. So I think we all have a really have a shared need to help our planet out.
Absolutely, a shared responsibility.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm hearing you say too, that kind of wraps up in the aloha spirit.
And I know that I told you to also do this to cut me off because I like to talk a lot. But since this is an audio interview, can I also read off your list of credentials? Because I was reading it to myself. Incredible. And I'll do it in my best Moana voice.
Oh my goodness. Well, I would love that. You know what? That warms my heart. Sure, you're welcome
Are you
to.
ready? Are you ready?
Yes.
Great. Omi Bell is a multi-talented computer scientist, business strategist, successful author, and serial entrepreneur with a diverse background spanning performance, K-12 education, and IP strategy. She is the founder and CEO of Black Girl Ventures, which has funded over 400 companies owned by underrepresented founders in marginalized communities, generating approximately $10 million in revenue and creating over 3,000 jobs for the U.S. economy. Omi has been named one of the top 100 powerful women in business by Entrepreneur Magazine and one of the top 40 power women in tech by DCA Live. It is an honor to speak to you today.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot to me. I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. In fact, I mean, well, one, can I use that video?
Yes, you
Okay,
can.
okay. We are in fact, I'm in Chicago today. It was meant for me to interview you too, because I was gonna have to cancel, but I'm in Chicago and they were like, "Can you do it?" And I'm like, "Absolutely, I'll figure it out. Let me figure out what time we can do it." Because we're having a pitch competition today. So funding women in Chicago today, actually tonight. So I'm so excited that we got an opportunity to do this. And I love what you're working on. And when I think about how many jobs the negative impact on a coral reef could actually negatively impact as well. I'm super dedicated to what it means to create jobs, especially for Indigenous BIPOC communities overall. So
Yeah, we're
I'm
talking
all
about
about
life.
it.
Totally. I love
Yeah.
talking to you. I hope to speak with you again. And congratulations. Good luck to you also tonight. Like all the best to you.
You same to you. And I'm gonna see you in more movies too. I can't wait.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Bye, Omi.
Bye.